Hey guys, this is my final on the Championship Fantasy Hockey League um, and my community. So before we go into the final project and we look at the past couple of weeks, I wanted to give this presentation and a brief overview of where we began. Um, so look at our fantasy community. It consists of a group of friends and acquaintances that have knowledge, tremendous knowledge about hockey, professional players, their stats, and how each player can affect their team. The common goal within the league, obviously, is to win a championship, and if not win a title, you've got to set yourself up for the future. In order to do that, owners must be creative, clever, with key free agent pickups, as well as set themselves up for the future with long-term deals for draft picks. Our league consists of 18 teams, so as you can see here, it's a very deep team. Most leagues are not this deep, but the importance of having a deep league makes you a smarter general manager. It's much more competitive, and it makes you focus because there's less star players available, so you've got to know what you're doing, and that's what we find throughout our community. It's very competitive. We've got a blog. We use Facebook chats, a way to communicate with each other, as well as we use websites like Daily Faceoff to help each other out. With 360 players on a roster, the league is very deep, so you've got to know who's hot and who to pick up off the waiver wire and who you can drop throughout the league. I just want to show a brief thing here. This is a roster throughout the league already. We're only 10 weeks in, but you can see within this roster over 50 players or so have been used already for this team. So that just shows you how competitive this league is, how quickly you've got to add players, drop players, who you can pick up, and look for players who can improve your team throughout the league. You can't just sit on a roster that you've drafted. You've got to be able to make moves and understand how each player you add is going to affect your team. Obviously, the goal of the teams are within the league is to build good GM relationships with one another, communicate, set up trades that'll help you go throughout the league. Since this is a keeper league, draft picks are involved, so you've got to know what's the value of each player for the draft pick that you're willing to trade, or a draft pick that you're willing to get, draft pick that you're going to get in return. So obviously you have to know or pay attention to stats, and that's why we use certain websites. And then obviously within this community, things that I've tried to incorporate to improve our league play. Over the next 3 weeks, this was a couple weeks ago, we decided we were going to implement this calendar. This was going to give players an idea of where they were going to stand when the season was all said and done. We implemented this around the Thanksgiving Day break, and the reason why this section of the calendar was the most important at this point in the season is because if your team is winning around Thanksgiving, you're about 8 to 9 weeks in, there's a good chance with only about 16, 15 weeks left that you're going to be a winning team at that point. If you're losing at that time, you're probably, barring a big-time trade or getting some players healthy, you're probably not going to be doing that well. So this is where you've got to make a determination on your roster, where you stand within the season, where you stand moving forward, and what type of keepers you may have, and how you're going to improve next year. And then obviously you're going to try to negotiate some trades, and now we're up to our monthly review. Our first event we hosted was we wanted teams to determine where they were within themselves within the league at about the 3-month mark. You're after 8 weeks. You know where your team is. Again, like I said, you understand, barring injuries, you are pretty much what your record says you are. Our focus within the league was basically how we were going to improve these rosters, how we were going to communicate with each other's team. And with 6 expansion teams this year, as we moved from 12 teams to 18 teams, it was important for these six rosters to understand how they could evaluate their roster, what players they could add, what players they can drop, what avenues they could go in improving their roster. Our second event was how to broker a trade, and this again was very important for our second or our expansion rosters. This was also important because early in the season we saw a couple head-scratching trades go on where a team that's now 0-9, about to be 0-10, made a deal where they traded they traded a first-round pick and like a third-round pick plus a starter for basically 2 late-round picks and a backup goalie. They basically misread a situation. They were not really paying attention to websites and blogs and chats that are out there where the goalie they traded for, and James Reimer was going to end up being the backup to Jonathan Bernier. So it was important for basically us to give avenues and ways for these owners to basically get a better handling and understanding of rosters. The importance of these things were to improve our overall play of the league and improve the relationships amongst the teams. You know, with 18 teams, it's tough to know everyone, but it's good to build some sort of relationship with other players within the league. And obviously, it's important that everyone does well, or at least is competitive, because no one wants to see a team be 0-10, because it's no fun for them and it's no fun for us, and no one wants to see a team do poorly every year. Parity is a great thing, and it keeps players on their toes, and it makes the league more fun to be a part of, and obviously it gives other teams chances to win. So our goals were very simple within the league. By implementing these certain measures, we were going to improve the play, and we were going to get rid of poor deals. Those were our goals. Those were our key focuses. All right. So within our plan of action, over the past couple weeks, we've tried to incorporate certain things to our websites and our blogs, and at first, one of the first things we did was to improve league parity and league play. We did a video blog or a video post on my blog page, and on this blog page, I highlighted key players and Andrew Shaw, center iceman for the Blackhawks, Mika Zibanejad, and defenseman Marc-Edouard Vlasic. These posts were important to the league because it showed, or it told people, there's some guys out there that are free agents that you can pick up. We used Daily Faceoff to show where each player was within the line, how they could affect the team, or affect the team's potential point earning power. So it was great. Now, it wasn't a general focus on our league. It was more of a broad-scaled picture of league play or fantasy hockey play. As a result, we saw Zibanejad get picked up right away. Now, it could have been from our blog page, or it could have been from someone paying attention, but again, that's the best part about the league, is we saw someone get picked up. Okay. Now, our second strategy was to improve trade play and have people improve their or evaluate their roster. Here's a blog post within our league that we always use, and this is a team who needed to evaluate their roster. And what was great about it was the team was 0-8. They evaluated their roster. They determined they needed to make a deal moving forward. The problem was, because they set the trade market so low earlier in the season, they tried to lowball people for picks, and that's not how you build a good GM relationship. As a result, this kid is being made fun of. As you can see here along this Twitter feed, people are talking about having this kid banned moving forward. And his knowledge of teams is coming into question, and teams are in fact now trying to take advantage of him as they try to fleece him. Throughout the course, we have used Twitter, Facebook, our Yahoo chat, and my WordPress blog to reach out to the fantasy community. Fantasy hockey overall is not a large community as a whole, because hockey is not an overly popular sport in the U.S. So our community and its information are very close and tight-knit. Each platform and website used was beneficial to our league and our community in many different ways. Like I said, the blog showed ways for guys to who to pick up, and there were stories, and our Facebook chat was a way to communicate with one another and post certain items. Obviously, Twitter was a way to communicate with each other. Our Yahoo chat, we could communicate. And websites like Daily Faceoff, where we saw updates of rosters and whatnot. Those were important because it made our league, it improved our league. Taking a look at our Yahoo community, our Yahoo fantasy chat board is always lit up with comments and debate. It's one of our great ways our leagues can stay together. It's hard to determine our page views, but we can determine our foot traffic on Yahoo and by the amount of communication on the forum page. So here's a picture of our forum page, and you can see there's 10, 12 chats already opened up, and this has only been through a couple of months, and some of them have 15 to 20, 30 blog or posts within them. So we know what gets people going, we know what gets them riled up, and we know the importance of the chat. Twitter is probably the most interactive account for our fantasy hockey community. We had 2 accounts opened up, my own personal one, and then an account used just for the blog page. While my personal page was lit up, JJ underscore the 2ND with communications and trade debates, the other one didn't garner so much attention, and that's okay, because the purpose of that one was really just to release news and information as well as retweet certain things. Here's my page, and you can see all the basically fantasy hockey comments and responses from different players, Dan, Kevin, so on and so forth. And here's our league Twitter. Here's more of my page. Tyler's involved again. Now our league page, we only had 2 followers. We were following 12 people, but we were basically just tweeting out items that were important for our league and for fantasy hockey people in general. Again, so that basically you can see what this page was about. You know, here's an update about Cam Talbot, the Rangers' backup goalie, so on and so forth. So this page was not more for communication, and it was just more for updates and to tell people where to go. We used Facebook and WordPress in conjunction. Facebook, because they kind of work together. They were more general about fantasy hockey and all together. We found that original posts within the blog that were geared towards the league didn't get so much traction as posts that were more general and geared towards just hockey fans. We saw a big viewership spike in articles like Alfie's return to Ottawa, where Daniel Alfredsson returned to Ottawa for the first time as a Detroit Red Wing, and we focused on how Ottawa gave him a standing ovation. That got a huge spike in our reading and our viewership, more so than a post that was about a fantasy hockey trade within our community. This kind of makes sense because our community as a whole loves hockey, and our community trend or thread in Yahoo is where most of us communicate anyway. So our blog and our Facebook page ended up being just an avenue where we expressed our love for hockey. And as you can see, as we look at this, our posts per page, this was our biggest spike in viewer readership, and that was Alfie's return. So articles like Alfie's return were huge and hugely popular, while an article right here which talked about a fantasy hockey trade that went down only got 1 view. So foot traffic tended to be a lot better. This was Alfie's return. This was the re-signing of Henrik Lundqvist. A more general topic got a little bit higher spike than Alfie's, and Alfie's return may have gotten a spike because it was a sentimental thing. So our conclusion was, after taking a look at it, we found that our league really pays attention to fantasy hockey trends and how teams can improve themselves moving forward, and we found that our league owners love to be a part of this league. They love being involved, and they love reading hockey stories. Now, one way we can continue to improve our league and implement more things is obviously see if we can have outside analysts, and that way they can run a meeting for us, or some way to incorporate an actual fantasy guru onto our blog would be great, because then it gives us a little more credibility than just a story writing issue or just a story writer, but someone who can give you up-to-date fantasy hockey tips. Because, like I said, fantasy hockey players, it's such a tight-knit community, and it's so small. We love to be involved, and we love things about hockey. So websites like Daily Faceoff do really well. So if we could bring somebody in like that, we would find it great, or we would see a spike in our viewership all the way around. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. I've had a great time this winter, and I hope to see everyone soon.